The 6 primary attackers heard that Capper's family was going to report her as a missing person, and so agreed that Capper had to be removed from the house. In the early hours of December 14, 1992, Capper was forced into the boot of a stolen white Fiat Panda car and driven 15 miles to a narrow lane at Werneth Low, near Romiley, on the outskirts of Stockport. In the car were McNeely, the Powells, and Dudson. McNeely giggled as they made the journey. Powell later said that Capper was pushed down an embankment, into a patch of brambles, where McNeely poured petrol over her. When McNeely had difficulty getting the petrol to ignite, Glenn Powell and Dudson made multiple attempts before lighting the girl's body on fire. McNeely began to sing, "Burn Baby Burn, Burn Baby Burn," from the Tramps' song, Disco Inferno. Believing Capper to be dead, the 4 returned to Jean Powell's house, stopping to buy canned drinks on the way. Both Lee and Pook were at the house when they arrived. After her attackers left, Capper managed to scramble back up the embankment and stagger along the lane for approximately a quarter of a mile to Compstall Road, despite extensive burns. She was found at 6:10 by Barry Sutcliffe and 2 of his colleagues on their way to work. They immediately took her to a nearby house and roused the residents, Michael and Margaret Coop, to call for an ambulance. Michael Coop said, "Both her hands appeared like ash. Her legs were just like raw meat and her feet appeared to be badly charred. I was struck by how polite the victim was. She was constantly thanking my wife for her assistance." Margaret Coop said, "I instinctively went to put my arms around her but she pulled away because she could not bear to be touched. Her head was shaved and there were recent, not new, cuts to her head. Her face was almost featureless. Her hands were red raw and black at the fingertips. Her legs were red from top to bottom. She couldn't bear anything near her legs." Capper drank 6 glasses of water, but was unable to hold the glass herself because of the injuries to her hands. Capper was rushed to the hospital and was able to give the names of her 6 assailants, as well as Powell's address, before falling into a coma. The extent of her burns was such that her mother and stepfather were unable to recognize her, and she was positively identified by a partial fingerprint from her thumb, the only part of her hands not severely burned. She died on December 18, 1992, without regaining consciousness. The inquiry into Capper's death was led by Detective Inspector Peter Wall of Greater Manchester Police. At 7:30 on December 14, he instructed officers to attend 97 Langworthy Road and arrest everyone that they found there. Jean Powell and McNeely reportedly laughed and joked with each other as they were arrested. Initially, all 6 denied involvement. Under questioning, Dudson, who had been urged by his father to tell the truth, began to talk. D.I. Wall said of Dudson's statement, "As the story began to unfold, we just couldn't believe it. I kept asking myself how one human being could do this to another." Police officers wept as the extent of Suzanne's suffering was revealed, and together with civilian staff at the station the police collected cash to send flowers to her in hospital. On December 17, 1992, the 6 accused appeared before magistrates in Manchester and were remanded into custody, charged with kidnapping and attempted murder. Following Capper's death, they were charged with her murder on December 23, 1992. The inquest was opened by Leonard Gorodkin at Manchester Coroner's Court on January 8, 1993. Dr. William Lawler, a home office pathologist, testified that Capper had suffered 75 to 80% burns, consistent with having had petrol thrown over her and set alight, and that her chance of survival had been minimal, Lawler said. It was clear from the outset that Suzanne was unlikely to survive. She suffered widespread burns that led to several complications internally, and that her death was due to complications caused by these burns. The coroner offered, "It is clear that this young girl must have suffered a great deal of pain and had no chance of survival. But she did fortunately survive long enough to give information which led to the people mentioned being charged with her death." He further directed a statement to Capper's mother and stepfather, saying, "I offer you, not just on my behalf, but on behalf of the whole nation, my very deepest sympathy and condolences at this tragic happening to your young daughter."